Watergate. This story really is unbelievable. So, strap in. Richard Nixon became President of the United States in 1969. As a man, he had the air of a permanent outsider, distrustful of others and paranoid. Throughout his life, he was known as the man who would fight dirty. Other people, political opponents. It was not that they had a difference of opinion. They were out to get him. They were his enemies. And for Richard Nixon, the ends always justified the means. From the start, Nixon surrounded himself not with the usual Republican Party hacks, but with outsiders like him. Men who owed their loyalty not to the party, but to Nixon personally. These men not only insulated Nixon from the wider executive staff, but also served as point men for a notorious and highly illegal campaign of political corruption that was ultimately to bring down the entire Nixon presidency. When in 1971, Daniel Ellsberg leaked the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times, exposing the lies and corruption at the heart of America's involvement in Vietnam, the Nixon White House went into overdrive. Early ideas for revenge included spiking Ellsberg's soup with LSD prior to a speech he was due to deliver at a Washington fundraiser. Due to give a speech on the Capitol steps in May 1972. The White House team also planned to hire 12 Cuban Americans to, quote, incapacitate Ellsberg. Definitions range from break his legs to kill him. In the end, they broke into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office, hoping to find medical notes that could be used to discredit him. They left empty-handed. Although anyone interested can go and see the actual filing cabinet they broke into. It is on display at the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. At the centre of these outrageous and, frankly, ludicrous schemes was G. Gordon Liddy. As a child, Gordon Liddy was frightened of rats, so he ate one. He trained himself to kill animals, so he could become a brutal soldier. Later in life, he routinely put a lighter flame under his hand to test his strength of will. As a child, he idolized Adolf Hitler. As an adult, he would take his children to see the Nazi propaganda film The Triumph of the Will. He was also on the 6th season of Celebrity Fear Factor with Joe Rogan. Liddy also had some fun plans for Nixon's enemies, leaders of the anti-Vietnam War movement, who might demonstrate at the upcoming Republican National Convention. He planned to kidnap, drug, and hold captive in Mexico until after the event's completion. This plan was called Nacht und Nebel. And would be carried out by an Einsatzgruppe. He wanted to get a luxury houseboat, install hidden cameras and use prostitutes to lure Democratic Party grandees to its king-size bed. There was also a plan to firebomb the Brookings Institute in DC. Dressed as firemen, during the ensuing confusion they could slip inside and steal important documents. Seriously. Oh yeah, also for the corresponding Democratic National Convention to be held in Miami, Florida. Break in and destroy the air conditioning system, so they had to give their speeches all hot and sweaty. One plan that was carried out, of course, was the illegal break-in and bugging of the offices of the Democratic National Committee in the Watergate Hotel in the summer of 1972. The first bugging in May was successful. Unfortunately, however, on the 17th of June, a team of 5 had to be sent back in due to an equipment failure. It was here that they got caught. The security guard noticing that they had taped over the locking mechanism in the basement security door. So the men are arrested. The FBI begin an investigation. Nixon immediately denies any knowledge of the break-in. June 23, 1972. Nixon privately agrees in a White House conversation to a cover-up plan to have the director of the CIA lie to the FBI and try and close down their investigation by saying the break-in was a CIA national security operation. The White House starts paying hush money to those arrested. February 1973. The Irvin Senate Committee begins investigating political espionage at the heart of the Nixon 1972 election campaign. Final report published June 1974. In March, White House counsel John Dean tells Nixon $1 million will be needed in bribes to silence everyone involved in illegal activities. Nixon tells him, "I know where that can be gotten." 2 days later, the judge hands down the sentences for the Watergate burglars. One, James McCord, has given the judge a letter stating that the defendants have been put under political pressure to perjure themselves, and that powerful people are behind the cover-up. The country is shocked. April 1973. The head of the FBI, Pat Gray, resigns after it emerges he has burned 2 brown envelopes of evidence on the orders of the White House. The ongoing Irvin Committee hearings are broadcast live on national TV. They replace the usually scheduled daytime TV soaps. By July, it is revealed that there has been a secret taping system inside the White House. All the government's secret conversations have been recorded. Nixon refuses to hand over the tapes. Months pass. The issue is taken all the way to the Supreme Court. Nixon agrees to release the tapes to Mississippi Senator John Stennis, who would listen to them and authenticate typed transcripts. Stennis is a segregationist who, as a prosecutor, sought the conviction of 3 black men for murder, based on evidence extracted under torture. He is also hard of hearing. Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox refuses Nixon's suggestion. The next day, in an act of outrageous political corruption, Nixon fires Cox. A massive PR disaster. In November, under enormous pressure, Nixon releases some tapes. One has a mysterious 18.5-minute gap during one of the conversations. New Nixon Chief of Staff Alexander Haig tells the press some sinister force or outside source of energy must be the cause. He then blames Nixon's secretary Rosemary Woods. She must have erased the conversation by mistake whilst taking a phone call. Woods disputes this, saying the call in question only lasted 5 minutes, not 18. Haig tells the press that women often talk longer on the phone than they realise. July 24, 1974. The Supreme Court finally ruled and say Nixon must release the tapes. He does. The recordings include all secret conversations of Nixon involved in plans to cover up White House involvement in Watergate. By August 7th, the tapes have been released. Nixon knows he must resign. He meets with Henry Kissinger and starts crying. He asks Kissinger to pray with him. Later that night, he says to Kissinger, "Henry, please don't ever tell anyone that I cried and that I was not strong." The story of Richard Nixon crying subsequently leaks out to the press. Richard Nixon resigns in disgrace. In September, the new US President Gerald Ford, Nixon's old vice president, gives Nixon a full pardon. Thanks for listening. If you like this, subscribe and comment below.